Welcome to Get the Facts, a program that provides you with information on government's policies and initiatives. I'm Enthros Campbell. It's Christmas time, and with Christmas comes the stringing of lights, increased cooking, and use of electronic appliances. It's a time when we tend to overload our sockets, and extra care must be taken to prevent fires. To share some fire safety tips with us is Public Relations Officer of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Assistant Commissioner Emilio Ebanks. Sir, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right, tell us about what is that saying about this time of the year? Do we have more fires, less fires?
We generally have more fires.
Yes.
Outside of maybe July, June, thereabouts, this is the month of December, when we have the most residential fires. It's also the month statistically that we have more persons dying from fires as well. So if we look at the months that I just mentioned, there are some things that are synonymous. Holidays, children are at home. So when we put these things together, we realize that something is actually happening that we need to fix.
Okay. So most persons are putting up lights, Christmas tree with lights, or some just lights by themselves. Tell us, what are some of the precautions we should take to prevent fires from a Christmas tree and lights?
One of the first things, when it comes to lights, make sure you're buying lights that when you feel them, they actually feel good in your hands, in that they don't feel, as my grandmother would say, too flimsy. If they are too flimsy, then what that is saying to you is that the wires are not very tensile as they should be, really. And sometimes the insulation as well is an issue. Also, you want to make sure that you don't overuse your lights, sorry. If you've had the lights maybe 3 years and you've not stored them properly, that is the way they come wound in that little package, you want to put them back in there when you're storing them. If you just take them down and you put them in a bag somewhere, we've seen a lot of persons take them down, they place them in some garbage bags, they tie them up, put them in a closet somewhere and leave them. After 2 or 3 years, the insulation tends to wear. You don't know what is happening in terms of the elements, the heat, if they are close to the roof, because some persons put them on top of closets, that kind of thing. The heat breaks down the insulation. So after a while, this will affect them. So we normally tell persons, after 2 or 3 years, throw them out, get another set of lights. As well, when you plug the lights in, if you look on the back of the lights, that section that you plug in, you'll realize it has a receptacle for another one, and then another one, and another one. We've gone to corporate offices, I've seen it myself, 12 lights plugged into one. What you're actually doing is you're plugging 12 lights into one socket. That socket was not meant to take all that load. If the socket is working correctly, it will trip. If not, it can actually start a fire. So we want to make sure when we are putting these things up, we take all the necessary precautions. When it comes to the trees, if you're going for a live tree, we suggest that you place it in a container with water. One, it keeps it more moist. As a result of that, it is less likely to catch fire.
With water and fire?
Right. So what you want to do is the container that you're putting it in, put some water in the base of it. It's the same thing with the candles as well. Christmas candles, set them in a base if you don't of water, if you don't have a candle holder. And these things will, one, as I said, they keep the tree moist, so it will be less brittle and less susceptible to starting a fire. Or if a fire should start, it will not aid in the surface spread, the rapid spreading of the fire. So all of these things you want to take into consideration when you're dealing with the Christmas trees and the lights.
Let's go back to how to store the cords with the lights. We have been told not to wrap them, isn't that so?
Right, you don't want to. And it's the same thing with all the electrical cords as well. I've seen a lot of persons when they take their phone charger, for example, they just wrap it and they put it down in a handbag, they put it down somewhere, and they think that they're actually doing good. You're not doing anything good to the cords when you do that. You're actually breaking the cords on the inside. And what you don't want is when you break those cords on the inside, they pierce the inner insulation, and then the negative and the positive comes together. That can actually start a fire.
Okay. So I want to put some lights on a tree outside. So I have no socket say for the veranda.
Right.
How do I, is that safe?
When you say outside, you mean outside
Outside
in the
in the
yard?
garden, right in the yard.
There are specific lights that are made for that. These lights are sealed off properly, but we wouldn't recommend the normal lights that you buy because those are indoor lights. Because once you put indoor lights on the outside, when it starts to rain, all of those things, the water will get into that area where you actually put the bulb in, and negative and positive can meet up in there, and it will either shut down your breaker if it's working fine, or it can actually start a fire. So use lights that are designed for outdoors, electrical appliances that are designed for outdoors, and use indoor lights indoors.
Okay. All right. So the water from the rain can cause a problem.
Right.
What about the water in that container with the Christmas tree, the live Christmas
You
tree?
don't want to get anything electrical at all in that container with the Christmas tree. So what we normally recommend in that particular case is the Christmas tree lights must be set at a level where there's absolutely no chance of any cords dangling and getting down into the water base.
Okay, great. One other question on lights. How safe is it for the lights on the grill, running the lights on the grills?
It is not so much of a safety issue from a fire perspective. However, if any amount of chafing takes place, then it's going to give you a shock. So we don't recommend that unless what you want to do is you put a level of insulation. So maybe a little piece of tape, a little piece of cardboard over where you're going to be winding the lights around the grill. And then you can do that.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so we're talking fire safety at Christmas. We take a short break now and continue with more from our Public Relations Officer of the Jamaica Fire Brigade. He's Assistant Commissioner Emilio Ebanks. Stay with us.
Predial larceny is everybody's business. Ask questions about the source of the items you intend to purchase. Don't support it. Report it. A message from the Predial Larceny Prevention Coordination Unit, ensuring that Jamaican farmers reap what they grow.
Welcome back to Get the Facts. My guest is Assistant Commissioner of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Emilio Ebanks, and we are sharing fire safety measures that should be taken during this festive season and, in fact, all year round. We're moving now to safety in the kitchen. Give us some tips on the kitchen and how we could prevent fires.
One of the first things I say to persons, if you get home any at all and you're feeling tired, do not start cooking. That's the first safety tip we want to get out there to persons. And like you rightly said, this is something for all year round. We know that a lot more is happening at this time of the year in the kitchen. A lot of baking. Persons are doing cakes and hams and maybe 3-4 course meals. So there's a lot of time spent in the kitchen. There's a lot of time spent preparing for the actually cooking as well. So if you're feeling tired, get some rest first, and then you start cooking. One of the things that a lot of persons tend to think, this will take 3 hours to be done, I'm just going to take a nap and then I come back. That nap might go for maybe 4 or 5 hours. And we've seen cases where persons are awakened by the smoke or the heat, and most times, unfortunately, it might be too late at that time. So if you're feeling tired, get some rest and then you start cooking. As well, I must point out to persons, never, ever leave cooking unattended for any period of time. So if the house phone rings and you move away from the kitchen to answer, it is best to tell the person that you're cooking, move back to the kitchen and make sure that you supervise that. Because again, one of the things that can happen is, my grandmother used to say that the devil can blow a breeze. That happens, the stove goes out, but the gas is still running.
Yes.
You go back inside, you don't know for what period of time the gas was actually there running, and then you go in and you start the stove back. That can lead to an instant explosion.
Yes.
So just don't leave cooking unattended.
Right. Anything we should look out for as it relates to the stove? When it gets too hot, any kind of tips there with the stove? And
Generally, when it comes to stoves, we always point out to persons, make sure that there's space for air to circulate around the stove. And not just the stove, by the way, all appliances. Because appliances that use electricity, they generate heat. So make sure that there is space for air to circulate around it. If you want to make sure as well that inside of the oven is maintained in such a way that the heat or the flames inside there will stay in the area that the manufacturer designed for it to stay in. If you find that it starts to rot, it's best to put it out and get a new one.
right,
It's simple as that. Don't go into repairing these things, because a lot of us, especially men, think we're macho and we can do that. Throw them out and just get a new one.
Right. People tend to leave children at home with the elderly at this time because they're gone out to shop and so on. What is your advice to
Definitely
persons?
don't do that. Don't ever leave the children and elderly alone at home. We've seen too many cases of that. One of the good things is that we're hearing that less now.
No, very good.
That is very good, but we again want to reiterate to persons, if one person dies from a fire, that is one too many for us. When a child dies, it hits a special chord as well. Especially for us as parents, we definitely don't want to see those things. So never ever leave the children and the elderly alone at home for any period of time whatsoever.
Right. You spoke to overloading of sockets, right? So you need to plug at least just one piece of equipment in the socket, right? So if we have a fire started because of overloaded socket, what can we do until the fire person comes?
If you can get to the source, as in the breaker, to turn it off, you can do that. Once you turn the breaker off, if this fire is at such a stage where it's very small, where you can actually fight the fire, you can go ahead and do that. If there is any doubt in your mind, don't attempt.
Yes.
Go outside, call the fire brigade, and stay out. Once you get out, stay out. We've seen a lot of incidents where persons get out and they think they can go back in to rescue some items, rescue somebody, and then they become a victim of that particular fire. So once you get out, stay out.
How do we know that our socket is overloaded?
I normally recommend to persons, if your house has been wired for more than 5 years, get a licensed and a certified electrician to come in. And this is a personal case. I bought my house about 5-6 years ago, and since this year I've had my electricians come in and do some checks. Incidentally, when they came in, they found some wires where I had a termite infestation, and the termites ate away at the insulation, and those wires would have caused problem further on. That problem is not something that any of us wants to deal with, because for most of us, a house is the largest investment that we'll make in life.
Yes.
So you want to make sure a certified and a licensed electrician do those checks just to make sure that everything is working the way it's supposed to work.
Right. So I am using a socket and it goes, we said gashes. We pull out the extension cord, but we pull it back in, we put it back in. Is that safe?
That is a sign of trouble. There are some things that you really have to look on. If you see ants coming out of your sockets, that is also another sign of trouble. I have heard persons say they pull the socket out, turn the breaker off, and spray some stuff in there, and they get rid of the ants. Yes, you would have killed the ants, but what was attracting the ants inside there is what you should be concerned about. Normally what you find happening is, most times, because you have some electrical shorting going on in there, the temperature in there is a little bit different from the outside, and the ants find it more comfortable on the inside in there.
Yes, yes.
You don't want that situation.
Yes. So I have a fire and I have called the fire brigade and they are coming. What can I do while I wait?
All we require of you to do is stay out of harm's way.
Oh, no.
When we get there, then you can tell us all the things that you should have done prior to, which is you want to make sure that from your family's perspective, everybody knows where to meet in the event of a fire. So you have a predetermined meeting place. When I was coming in here, I was looking for that on the property and I saw it. You want to have that at home.
Yes.
So everybody knows that they are supposed to meet at this point.
Yes.
You do a head count, Make sure that everybody's accounted for. Stay safe until the fire brigade gets there, which is why we normally recommend to persons, once you see a fire, call us immediately. Don't wait until it gets out of control for you, then you call us at that point. So once there's a fire, call us immediately. If it's small enough where you are 100% sure that you can fight the fire, then you can go ahead and do so.
Yes.
We rather get there and everyone is safe and you battle the blaze when it was small and put it out and we go back to base, rather than get there and we now have to carry out a rescue operation and start fighting up a fire that is already out of control. And I want to quickly point out the average room takes 3 minutes to be engulfed. So don't think you can go in there, do this, do that, and get back out.
One other thing, this time is usually windy.
Yes.
We shouldn't be lighting any fires outside to
Absolutely
burn.
not.
Yes.
Absolutely not. I was starting the Edward Seaga Highway the other day, and I saw where from the cleaning up of the side of the road, I saw some persons who were lighting, and I stopped and I spoke to them. And I told them I'm going to call the fire station, and they're saying it's a small fire. I said that's how all fires start. And I called the Spanish Town station and had them come out there. And not only, I told them not only put the fire out, saturate the area for me, so they will not try to do it again.
Remind us of the numbers, please, as we wrap.
The universal number for any kind of emergencies is 112. You can dial 112 or 110 for the fire brigade in Jamaica.
Thank you so very much for coming and sharing with us these important tips to prevent fire. So this has been Get the Facts. Our guest was Public Relations Officer of the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Assistant Commissioner Emilio Ebanks. Until next time, be safe and take good care.